how did you have the vision or the foresight to even save and invest in your first property? Do you remember how much you had saved up to even get into this crash pad house hacking situation?
Yeah. So I bought that as my primary. So I needed like 3.5% down. I think I put down like 10 grand. I'm very frugal when it comes to money. And so even when I was making 50, 60, 70 grand, I was able to save, 10 grand a year. What had happened was on my next deal, I saved up 25 grand because I actually had a car that I had bought and flipped in order to get the 25 grand to put down on the fourplex. And so I've always been creative. I've always saved my money to invest it, but I just knew that, I had to keep buying deals because I wanted the cash flow. I wanted to buy a deal and actually make some passive income.
Yeah, I always thought, commercial airline pilots were, pretty high salaried starting right at the top, but it sounds like no matter what, you sort of have this base salary and incrementally over the years, just like any job, it kind of grows. Is there like a side to that where it is super juicy, a really lucrative salary that you were sort of looking forward to, and that was kind of what was going to fuel your real estate in the future? Or did you not really have aspirations to go all in the real estate space early on?
Early on, I literally thought that I'd buy a single family home and buy another one and buy another one and then, have some multifamily. I didn't really think of it as like I'd be a huge multifamily apartment owner or operator. I just, I didn't have the belief, I didn't have the vision at that point in time. And I think like any of us, we just, we want to start off with our first deal. And we want to kind of get our feet wet. Like I literally, when I bought my first deal, I didn't even know what they were talking about when they asked me, hey, you want to buy down a point? Do you want conventional? Do you want FHA? I had no idea what any of that meant because I was never taught that in school. So, for me, it was like, okay, once I found out I could do the first deal, it excited me because I was making $400. My second deal, I was making $600, but it was a fourplex. And I actually bought that. It was a foreclosure. And I redid everything. And the biggest mistake that I did was I thought I had to do it myself. So I had no idea I'd end up with 21 units at the age of 30. I just knew that once I bought my first deal and I said, if you could do one, you could do two. If you could do two, I could do four. If I could do five, I could do 10. And so I literally just started reading a bunch of books. I mean, I really like to just figure things out. I'm very curious. And so once I had my first deal, I was like, okay, what's next?
That's pretty cool. Yeah, so 21 by the age of 30 is really quite the accomplishment. You said you wanted to get into this, and you're like, I'm just going to buy a single family house, single family house, single family house. A lot of people have different reasons for getting into real estate, but what was yours? Did you have a why or a motivation that, because like it's very, like I would say, I don't want to say rare, but it's not like a lot of people go into real estate like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy one and one. Like usually there's some kind of turning point or some kind of fuel that's like firing them up. What was that reason for you?
So when I would go to work at the airline, what I started to realize is that when I was having these conversations about real estate with my family and with coworkers, a lot of them were saying, oh, be careful. Real estate's risky. And my turning point for me was, I was going to work every single day and I was trading my time for money. And at the time I was getting paid $100 or $120 per hour. And I was like, how long can I do this for? Like how long can I travel for the airlines? And so I really had that turning point because I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, like how long are you going to trade your time for money? And that was awakening for me. And that's really what got me on that path to real estate is like, okay, if I can make money here, put it to work in real estate, and then get the cash flow to pay off my student loans. I mean, you guys have to realize I was in debt 140 grand. I was in debt 140 grand, and people are like, pay it off as soon as you can, pay it off as soon as you can. And so what I did is I bought a fourplex with the 25 grand and the extra cash flow that I was getting from the fourplex. I would just pay down an extra $400 on my student loans every month. And but literally by the age of 30 years old, I had $140,000 paid off. I still had the principal, Rob and Dave. Like I still had the principal working for me and my student loans were paid off. So for me, it was really just that shift at like 24 and 25. Because although my uncle was very helpful in my early age, he didn't understand cash flow. He didn't understand having the assets because remember, he was a builder. He would build to sell for a profit. When I started getting my head right and my mental right, I was like, man, I want to buy it. I want to hold it. I want to cash flow it. And I want to get the benefits that real estate actually provides.
Do you remember just out of curiosity, because, student loan payments, they aren't very friendly. What was the student loan payment like on $140,000?
It was like $600 for 30 years.
What? That's nothing.
But I mean, it was back in 2002 where interest rates were lower, and you paid $600 or $700 per month. And over 30 years, that's a long time, right?
It's over 30 years. Got it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense because I was paying like $1,000, but it was amortized over 10 years or something like that. Okay, so $600. I mean, not super bad, but obviously, like if you could replace that with income, that was sort of like the goal. You're like, let's chop that out, and then let's start figuring out how to use real estate to sort of fuel the overall wealth of your life, right?
Well, yeah, and everybody was telling me like I had 25 grand. They're like, no, you should pay off your student loan. And I was like, no, hang on. Let me go buy a 4 unit. The rents were like $500. So I was literally collecting $2,000 from 4 units. The mortgage and everything was like $1,200. And, after expenses and everything, I had like $600. So I would literally take the $600, double it, and I would just start chipping it down. So that way, when the student loan was paid off, I still had this 4 unit, or I still had that principal working for me.